Well, hey, welcome back to the show. My name is Saucey. I was the DM for the campaign here, Kings Road Young Lions, and I'm joined by the players of the game. They are Gator, Bronson, Rosa, and Solomon, the Young Lions. Say hello, Young Lions.
Hello, young
Hello,
lions.
young lions.
Hello, young lions.
You'll forever be our DM. It doesn't matter. You'll always be the DM.
Maybe.
That's what every DM fears to hear.
Yeah, that's,
The DM of our hearts.
Yep.
that's a curse. Going to need an old priest and a young priest to get rid of that curse.
Rosa and her mom.
So tonight is a different show. You know, now that the campaign is over, tonight is going to be the curtain call where we bring everybody back in the ring here and we talk about what happened on the show and what happened after the show was over. So everybody's going to get a chance at their happy ending. They're going to get a chance to tell their after story as we get into the epilogue. And first of all, I want to thank all the players here for an incredible journey. It was a lot of fun for me as a novice DM. There was a lot to be learned, and in fact, I'm going to do a lessons learned episode probably a couple weeks after this, just to kind of talk about some of the things that happened that nobody knows about on each of the episodes.
Tell me that you work in project management without telling me you work in project management.
This guy gets it. So, you know, we're going to talk about what happened at the end of the campaign and highlight some of the major themes. But here's how the epilogue is going to work. We're going to go around the table here as we stop at each person and we take turns narrating that character's end story. And then at that point, we will pass the story on to the next player, and we're just going to play off of each other's stories here. So I encourage everybody to participate, make this fun. I may jump in just to clarify details or to prompt some questions, but I'm going to let you run with it if you've got stuff prepared already. Keep in mind that this game world, the kingdom of Kafabia, is full of NPCs and locations and businesses. Don't be afraid to touch upon any of those. You have creative freedom with any of the properties that we've created in the game. Of course, there are a bunch of unanswered questions that we will get to. But I think the best way to start this is let's start with the person who I think who probably has the most prepared, Bronson Celtigar.
I do not have the most prepared. I have a handful of bullet points for what I would actually like Bronson to do.
So the reason I say that is because all along the story, Bronson had his own side quests that, hey, we got to come back. We got to see what happens here. We got to see what this guy does. I got to get back home. I got to go check out my dad, my son, my ex-girlfriend. You know, there's so many things on the list that we had to say, hey, Bronson, just reminder, there's no main character here. It's a party quest.
Hey, I was always trying to give the DM more meat to cleave off the bone there.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we're starting with you. So,
all right.
I have a feeling that some of us are going to piggyback off of your story here, but let's just start right with the big, the bird's eye view of Bronson and House Celtigar. Tell us within the 6 months after Vance McDragon has been slayed and the Darker Order has been reduced to rumors and whispers and shadows. The kingdom has changed. And what does that mean for Bronson and House Celtigar?
So immediately after we have, all said our goodbyes and everything like that, Bronson definitely, he went back to Territory 1, assembled all the family, got everyone accounted for, introduced his son to everyone, and then commenced attempted or like rebuilding his house into an economic powerhouse of the area. So much so that since everyone else has been sort of decimated by the slamdemic, or has had issues with the world being basically upended, the Celtigars have taken advantage of the fact that they have a functioning fleet and a well-connected group of captains, and we've turned House Celtigar into the number like one house in Territory One. We're starting to groom. What was his son's name? What did you name him? We might rename him based off of later events.
Well, with a character that has a name like Bronson, there was no better name than having a son named Norris.
Norris, that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Norris.
It was either going to be Norris or Schwarzenegger, but Norris seemed to
Yeah.
work better.
Yeah. So basically making sure that, Norris is getting adjusted, and, introducing him, letting him know the whole story of how we got to him, that uh we can go see his mom if he would like, but we don't have to cross that bridge ever. And that he's, going to be well taken care of. Uh, and, starting to get him educated and trained, just like I was from a young age. The standard nobility in Territory One gets, martial training and book learning, to try and make you a relatively effective nobleman. And so after all of that is squared away, um, then Bronson and his son leave. I leave Grady in charge of the house and the family in the meantime. So about 3-4 months have passed, and Norris and Bronson set out into the wilds, uh, and we're following the rumors and the fallout, the damage of a reported huge orcish warband that's been ravaging the frontier cities, so I guess or the villages closer to the mountains and stuff like that. And the point for Bronson, I mean, on one, the cover story is basically like, oh, well, as basically the de facto leaders of Territory One, we have a responsibility to, uh, you know, use our resources to help take care of everyone, right? But everybody knows the real reason that he's going. He has a suspicion on who could, who could be running the show with the orcs, and he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And Norris needs to see combat and needs to see, how to deal with adversity and helping people. It's just a life lesson for him, and sort of a, deep down the green skin in him is like, must show son strength. So
Remind
that's
us
what we're up
again,
to.
how old is Norris?
I think he's 6.
Yeah, but 7. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
7.
So
Yeah.
yes, that tracks for the amount of time. Yeah. So let's see, he's old enough to hold a sword, so should be good.
Hey,
Trying to get some personal time with my son.
this is what I expected out of Bronson. I did not expect him to be a master negotiator who built a thriving economy out of Territory One. But teaching his 7-year-old how to kill orcs in the mountains, that checks out.
Yeah, I figure that the Celtigars are like just shy of a syndicate. Like, but then again, everybody in Territory One is like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So there's a little bit of legal gray area there, but for the most part, we're intact and skilled, and so we're taking advantage of a power vacuum. But it's not overreaching and it's not overly criminal. So that's sort of where I put it. It's like, just sort of business is business at that point. But you're right. I don't really want to run the day to day of that. And Grady seems perfectly amenable to it. I mean, like when I asked him, he just kind of gave me a half-hearted thumbs up, and then we went on our way.
For a while there, and great choice by the way to take over. For a while there, Bronson really struggled with his past and his identity, but now he's been through the King's Road and came out the other end as a world champion. How has he really dealt with a lot of those old ghosts? His personal demons.
I sort of think he buried him with the King's Road. Like he's to Bronson, he's the top dog when it comes to that. He did what he set out to do, and that erases a lot of the doubt, and the fact that he was able to reassemble his cousins. The old guard had already, sort of dug their own grave, and successfully rebuilding the house has basically, like, he's done almost everything that he set out to do, because he kept his goals fairly attainable, from a personal standpoint. They were all surrounding his actions and what he could do and what his family could do, rather than, I don't think he had any uh ambitions for like running the world after the government was toppled, or anything like that. So it was relatively manageable for him to do, and now he's just got one more mystery to solve, in terms of his ancestry, and there's some plans with that as well.
What are the odds he comes back to defend his world championship?
Oh, super high. Like, yeah, see, like that. He's definitely interested in that. Like, you don't win the belt just to retire on top, right? You gotta show everybody that you're still the top dog, and so that's sort of feeding into why he's going searching for his dad. Because now there's no more King's Road, right? There's, until everything sort of maybe gets propped back up and some form of it, comes back around, because the masses will want entertainment eventually. uh so there's more accolades to be won, and he finds the warband and finds out that his dad is the chieftain of the warband. And as he approaches the camp, or the think like the Dothraki from Game of Thrones, in that, like, it's a camp, but it's also a camp that, like, spans the entirety of a plains,
Sure.
and
Yep.
so as he is approaches and is brought, before the guards and everything like that, uh they recognize that he's of orc blood, and so he and flashes his belt, and tells them in orcish to take him to their chieftain, uh, and he challenges his father for war chief at that point. Um,
That's pretty ironic. I figured with the belt, it was going to kind of be like the WWE hardcore belt, where Bronson would be like, I defend all challengers at all times of day.
yeah,
It's like the 24/7 hardcore belt. And here he
sure.
goes marching into this mega warband camp, and he challenges somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's of, basically, there's only two objectives here: is deal with the father and make sure that his son doesn't get killed in the process. Like, he's got him basically, in a backpack, I'm guessing. Like, not like how we transported corpses, but, like, he's popping out piggyback, sort of like we were joking about with Rosa. And so yeah, that's basically the premise. Is to I don't even know if he would let him know who he is until after the fight.
Do we want to reveal the results of that fight, or do we want to save that as the origin story for the next character?
Yeah, we can save it.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit here and jump across to the other side of the world, where you left your old flame, Alicine. That's of course Norris's mother, living in the town of Ironvale and married to a business owner, a man who goes by the name of Bannon, who sells a product called Booty Oats. Whatever happened to them? How are they doing over in Ironvale?
Probably okay. And then I would think that eventually, like I wouldn't necessarily just like plop him down, in Ironvale, but like, look, I found our son. But I would let her know that he's alive and that there's an open invitation to come see him, or we will be more than happy to come visit Ironvale. And there's no expectations, nothing is, just like to let her know that he's being taken care of.
Well, that's nice. So you're still not going to go over there and take out Bannon. That's good news. I see that Rosa.
I will not be railroaded into that terrible decision.
Rosa's influence has worked on Bronson a second time here. So speaking of Rosa, how does Bronson stay in contact with the rest of the party?
I would venture to guess that occasionally there are like messages that just pop up that we have, time to respond back with a simple message. I would also venture to guess that depending on where everybody ends up, that we write each other. I know, Bronson's like one of the few barbarians that's probably very literate, so he would be more than happy to visit people or write to them, as available.
Sure. Well, some of the members of the party, the magic users, have the ability to use this message spell. And we saw that with some, basically, it was a texting spell where you could send, brief messages and an emoji, just checking in with folks, and you can message back and forth. And specifically, Rosa used that to great effect. So let's hop over to the Rosa story here. Rosa, if you are ready, we would love to hear about what happened immediately after Rosa traded her cleric powers to serve a new master, that is the the celestial being known as the Timekeeper, where Rosa used to serve Moradin. Is it Moradin? Mirrodin? I think it's Moradin.
I thought it was Moradin.
Moradin, yep. Mirrodin is, I think that's a Magic the Gathering race.
His real name is actually Potato.
Yeah. So Rosa's been on this spiritual journey and has made this spiritual decision for the purpose of saving the party and the entire kingdom, really. So talk about what happens after that encounter with the Timekeeper.
Be prepared for the most boring epilogue ever. So after all this, and it kind of ties in to all the stuff with the Timekeeper, Mord, and all that. So after everything with McDragon and the Young Lions, we all go our separate ways. Rosa, she goes back home to Suplex City to help rebuild her hometown. I mean, it was just completely decimated. And she lives in a small cottage on the outskirts and tries to stay out of any sort of spotlight. She wants no role in any new government. She wants no fame. Let's see. Also, she's kind of going back to what she was doing before the King's Row, but she has been ultimately changed. her faith in Moradin has been shaken. She still believes, but she definitely has doubts in his strength and wisdom. When she called upon him for help, he didn't show. The timekeeper did, which is exactly why she was so quick to take his offer. If Moradin wasn't going to answer her, then she's going to, you know, seek a better power. I'm just looking through all my notes here.
Now, some people have suggested that Rosa's arrangement with the timekeeper is similar to that of a warlock's deal, right? Where in exchange for abilities and power, a patron will request things of the recipient. So in those 6 months after the campaign ends, are there any interactions between Rosa and the timekeeper? Do they speak to Rosa in any way or give Rosa any signs about what she should be doing or how she should serve the timekeeper?
Well, there is one thing that came across, and that is extinguishing. Well, you wouldn't really extinguish darkness, would you? Basically going after the remnants of the Dark Order. And through that, she actually tracks down Red Eye Black, if everybody remembers that. We talked about getting that drink when everything was done and over.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, met with her, got that drink, and started working on some details on how to root out the remnants of the Dark Order throughout Kefavia.
Well,
and I feel like that was inspired by the Timekeeper.
Well, that's great news. Red Eye Black survives the assault on the Capitol. Not everybody did survive, by the way. Some great friends of the party perished in some of those attacks where there were all sorts of nasties running around town, warp beasts and iron masters, and a zombified capital D with a pointer finger of death. We may never know what happened in that scenario, but the clerics.
Well, now you got to tell us who did.
Well, I was hoping that you guys would tell me who didn't make it.
Nobody made it.
No, well, Red Eye Black definitely made it. So good news
Red
there.
Eye Black, us, we were the only survivors.
Could be. Well, we know for a fact who didn't make it, and that was the Rogues family. They did not make the cut. So
Nope.
So sad to see them eliminated, but at least, we're done with Cobra Rogues and his arrogant monologues. It's that story has been finished, and now it's time for a new story. So just to rewind things a little bit, does Rosa ever feel regret? Maybe for the things that she did during the King's Road, or even for the choice of serving the Timekeeper?
So I know that her first kill definitely left an impact on her.
Does she remember who it was that she killed?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it like Blazing Rod or something like that? Rift Blazing Rod.
That was in Iron Vale.
He was a bard. It was in the forest because they tried to kidnap me, stuff like that.
Yep.
Does Bronson remember the first person he killed?
Oh, it happened way before the campaign started.
God. It's really funny that like I remember I actually see like the face of the character portrait that you had for it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy.
It was the stable boy. I was 7. Just the same age that Norris is now. He called me green skin. He made fun of my teeth sticking out. And then I stabbed him with a pitchfork.
So I can see that Bronson still has some demons that he hasn't quite dealt with yet. But who was it that Rosa remembers Bronson killing in front of her for the first time?
I want to see if Bronson can answer that one.
It was the fight in the docks. It was Disco. That's who it was. It was Disco.
No, it wasn't Disco.
Yeah, it was Disco. I like chopped him in half in like one round.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Nyx.
This was a session before that. It was when we were fighting our way out of the docks before we got onto that ship. Disco was one of the first ones that we encountered on the docks, and I just obliterated him.
You did. You dropped Disco, but Disco did rise and fight again. So there must have been a high level cleric around somewhere, because Disco isn't dead, baby. Disco is still getting it done. But shortly after you killed Disco, you killed the half giant. Oscar the Grouch died, but I think he kind of got himself killed. And
yeah, he got like fireballed to death or something.
And there were a couple other folks around there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back onto Rosa's story here. Let's talk about Rosa's mother. You know, last time we saw her, she was near death, had her tongue cut out. Her hands were badly damaged, you know, fingers broken, just in a real bad way, but alive. How's Mama Rosa doing these days?
I'm gonna backtrack. Hey, you. Sorry, my cat also likes to interject. You asked if I regret my decision to be the Timekeeper's champion, and she doesn't. That is one definite solid fact. Rosa's mom, we go back to Suplex City, and we actually develop, because without her able to speak, we develop actually a form of like sign language to communicate with each other. Sorry, it was in my notes somewhere. Blah 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 blah. Oh, there it is. And also with Rosa's doubts in Moradin, she decides not to replace her mother as the leader of the temple. There's plans to rebuild the temple, just not in the same place. Where is... I had information about my mother, but I think it's only the form of sign language. And going home to help take care of her and rebuild. But otherwise, she's doing better, at least. You know, we work on trying to heal the broken hands. Unfortunately, nothing to do about a missing tongue, but we're just happy that we both made it out pretty much alive.
You know, it's a real shame that Rosa has these abilities to heal and to cure, but could not cure a missing tongue. In addition to that, Rosa picked up a hobby became a bit of a novice alchemist. Couldn't find any potions to regrow appendages there either, huh?
Not yet. She definitely tries to pore over books and study when she has the time.
And how
without a high-level cleric, which are, you know, I mean, like, I forget what level you have to be to do regeneration. Let's see. Regenerate. Let's see. So that is a 7th level spell. So Oof. You're talking about like what, a level 13 or 14 cleric, and like you're talking like national hero level, you know, adventurer at that point. So the idea of finding someone who's capable of that is not unreasonable, but also probably would be very difficult.
So what you're saying is potions are the way to go.
Yeah, but then she'll grow a tongue that's like an octopus or something like that. I'll be like, oops, accidental mind flare.
Right. Don't get it wrong. So Rosa has had a number of affiliations in along the way here, where she, in a quest to bring healing and to help people, she was employed by the Risky Rabbit, a brothel slash speed travel agency that exists all throughout the kingdom, and under the tutelage of Mistress Wolf, Rosa was able to make a lot of friends and help a lot of at-risk people. So whatever happened to the Risky Rabbit and the travel system under room number 6, we call that the Forbidden Door, where there was a fast travel underneath the bed in room 6 of every Risky Rabbit brothel. So tell us what happens to the Risky Rabbit.
I would say Mistress Wolf is quite resourceful and was able to at least protect her interests and such. So the Risky Rabbits are still standing. And in fact, Rosa had reached out to see if maybe she can start traveling and helping heal again. Maybe not with any sort of cleric abilities, since those were, stripped of her when she took the Timekeeper's patronage. But she can still, make medicine, do potions, all that. So she can still perform her tasks, maybe not in the same capacity. So if Mistress Wolf will approve and have her, she will want to use the fast travel to get around to the different Risky Rabbits a little bit quicker.
And with Vance McDragon and the Darker Order finally brought to heel, that just leaves the question of the Slamdemic, the mystery virus that was killing people and causing them to become undead all over the kingdom. Any news on the Slamdemic since McDragon fell?
Honestly, I am not sure about that. I tried studying pretty heavily into it, but I thought the source was from the Dark Order and McDragon. So with them kind of out of the picture now, I would think the Slamdemic would ease up. That's at least my thought on that one.
And it certainly has, from what you've seen, but there are still whispers about the Darker Order having a resurgence, still existing in darker pockets of the kingdom. But only time will tell exactly if there's any truth to that. And speaking of the kingdom, let's move over to the heir to the throne, Mr. Triple G, Gator Gary Golden, the first in line. Tell us, Gator, have you taken the throne, or have we found another form of government?
I didn't vote for him.
The answer is no. And be careful what you say next, Gator, because Solomon may be interjecting.
There's, as far as Gator knows, there's currently a steward to the throne, because Gator answered the clarion call after the adventure, and we'll get into that. But yeah, steward to the throne. Sound good with you, Solomon? Or something like it.
Temporarily, yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Gator explains that there's all kinds of crazy shenanigans when a king dies. The prince doesn't just step right up. That'd be crazy. There's got to be like a mourning phase. So we put a steward or a custodian, if you will, to the throne, and I can go about and do what I have to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be royally ordained or anything. And yeah, there's a lot of checking with Solomon on these matters.
Yeah,
But-
that'll be a good stopgap while we get democracy set up in Kavavia.
Yes, stopgap, whatever that is. When do I get my kickback from the slush fund?
I'll be in touch with your people. My people will call your people.
But aren't your people my people?
No, we have different people now, Gator.
That sounds right. Okay. Solomon's never wrong.
All of Gator's people are handlers.
Yes.
So this is a huge responsibility for Gator because some people will always see him as the rightful heir to the throne, while others say that either he hasn't earned it or the structure of government no longer is appropriate or what's best for the people. Other people will say that Gator fell back on his cowardly ways, and made excuses for why he could not take on this responsibility. Can you talk a little bit about Gator's approach to the way he lives his life? Is he still a bit of a coward? Is he still more of a flight rather than a fight type personality? Tell us a little bit about Gator's view on the world.
Oh, Gator's like the wind, he's here and then he isn't. He's up and he's gone the next day. And yeah, I'm not trying to be held down by the responsibilities of a kingdom. There's more magic and more knowledge to be had, and me sitting on a throne can only make me more jaded and crabbed and ignorant to the outside world. So
that is a great point. That Gator is now one of the greatest and most famous magicians in all of the realm. And
so famous.
Remember, this is a place where magic was formerly outlawed, and now, the name Triple G is synonymous with magic. What does that feel like?
Well, I feel like I have even more of a reputation to live up to now. So, considering Gator didn't feel like he had a tremendous effect on that final battle with McDragon, he could see that the forces of the universe were still greatly at odds with him, and that if he was going to stand a chance, he couldn't just rest on his laurels, and he'd have to continue his wizardly pursuits.
Gator goes back to college. Oh, this is gonna be great.
I have notes about that.
The whole reason that Gator is in this position to begin with is because he's part of a royal bloodline, right? King Jerry was Gator's father, and with Gator being a bastard child of King Jerry, the only known living heir of King Jerry, and King Jerry being one of the original 4 founders of the kingdom itself. Is there a point where Gator mourns the loss of his father who died during the King's Road, or is he completely detached?
I mean, I'd probably care if he had hugged me, but that guy was never there. He wasn't there when things were important. He wasn't there when things were insignificant, but it would still matter. Why should I care that he's gone forever? Anyway, that's a little turn, a little private turn to the camera for that moment. But yeah, no, like on the inside, he realizes like, wow, like I'll never really get to know the guy now. But it's kind of like a fleeting thought, and like it's like a butterfly. And he's like, oh, what's that over there? And something else catches his eye real quick, and he changes his mood, and he's off once again.
Rumor has it that King Jerry wanted to put Gator on the path to becoming a great military officer, right? And Gator finds himself in the Navy, the Royal Navy. However, it's not a great fit for him, right? He gets into trouble, and that's kind of the origin story of Gator. We've joked
They
about it
didn't
before.
say there was going to be that much work when I was in the Navy. They didn't say that. I saw the boats and I saw the sailing, and I was like, I like the water. As far as I thought I had.
So now that Gator is famous, rich and famous, does he own his own private boat?
No, he never goes on the water.
Oh,
Shocking.
so we're going to assume that he still has not learned to sail. Maybe he can look into airships. Maybe the skies are the only way to travel these days.
Well, for Gator, the sky's the limit. So yeah, that could be a thing.
That's right.
There's always magical servants that can pilot things better than I ever could. There's constructs and all sorts of like undead ferrymen, and well, let's not get into that little sector. I only barely dabbled in necromancy, okay? I'm an illusionist. Think of me as an illusionist. Sort of like a Mace Windu, if you will.
That's not a comparison that I would have guessed. But
not a S-class illusionist, Mace.
Well, like it's because I never found a grape flavor lightsaber.
If we had just made it to the next territory, I'm sure it would have been waiting for us there. So one last question here. The King's Road was established by the king at the time to get people to focus on martial combat and to get them to avoid practicing the magical arts. So now that your father, the king, has passed, whatever happens to the King's Road, is that something that Gator has an opinion on, or is that something that Solomon can help us with?
Solomon, is this part of the kickback we were talking about, keeping this thing going?
I've got some thoughts, and actually, I think as time goes on, you could provide a very valuable service to that end of things.
Yeah.
Well, now's a good time for us to get into the story of Solomon Scribbles, the man who originally had the goal of dismantling a corrupt system of government, the kingdom of Kefabia broke into several territories, and the common people forced to fight each other to distract themselves from the object poverty that they were living in. So, has Solomon accomplished that original mission?
Solomon does everything within his power to accomplish that mission. After the fall of McDragon, he immediately goes to the head honchos and powers that be to start whatever needs to go into place to turn Kefabia into a democracy.
Yeah, there's a bit of a power vacuum now with the king gone, the world champion Alfarius Cone is gone, the Iron Masters are all gone. Really, the party is the de facto ones to inherit the kingdom here. So people are looking for direction, and Solomon's voice has such great weight at this time.
Direction is something I am very good at.
So I guess the question everybody wants to know about Solomon is, does he stay? Does he rebuild? Does he take a role in the development and leadership of this new form of government? Or does he walk away and take on a new identity?
I think there's a little bit of both. For one, he stays with the persona of Solomon Scribbles as long as it takes to get the democracy up and running. I imagine a ceremonial King's Road. The tournament is alive and well. Participating in it still means something. There's a position at the end that's mostly for the show of it all, but the world champion gets to be heard by the Senate, and they get to say their piece, and the cultural tradition gets to live on, but doesn't give anybody any real power.
So it's ceremonial, it's symbolic,
Yeah.
but actually holds no political weight, much like celebrity of our modern day republic here.
I will give whatever speech you want.
Absolutely. In fact, I've got a couple of pages already written for you. Just go start talking.
So, what does his future look like? Does he see himself as an advisor? Does he continue as a leader of a rebellion, or something different?
Um, Once the new political structure feels ready and set up, Solomon kind of fades off into the background because that's not the only power vacuum that's going to be left in the world. Because there are going to be forces at play who have come into great strength during this corrupted system of government. Gangs and whatnot run amok probably for quite some time during the tongue-tied myself, while the political structure is disabled. And I think Solomon got a taste of something while he had infiltrated into the hard way, and comes up with the best solution to his mind that would be to control these underworld elements and use them to the productivity of society as best as possible. So I think he invents a new persona and becomes like the kingpin of the underworld of Kafabia.
He's like the CIA.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Running the cartel.
The seedy underbelly, but it's being pointed in like all the right directions. Where it's like, we're gonna rob all these dum-dums over here, and then we're gonna take all their money and stuff, and then all that money gets actually used for healthcare and stuff.
Yep, exactly. And I see in the hills overlooking Timberclash, in what once was the McJagan estate, where he was having an evil monologue moment before he watched the bar owned by the Hardway explode off in the distance. That is now the home of the mysterious yet ever wily, meticulous, and terrifying commissioner.
Oh, he's the new commissioner. Does he keep
A new gang has popped up called the Easy Way.
So the commissioner in his ivory tower with the fossilized dragon skull on his wall of his office. Perfect. Speaking of these seedy gangs that still exist, tell us about what happens to the Gobby Lobby. We know the Gobby Lobby as the rival business to the Gnome Depot. And the Gnome Depot had sent us on this mission to destroy and dismantle the Gobby Lobby, but we never actually did that. We talked about it.
I think in the end, Solomon made good on that and disabled the Gobby Lobby in a way that was pretty significantly to the Gnome Depot's interests. Like, they got overstock product, they got like first in line at the auctions of the the Gabi Lobby estate, because all of that is tied up in McDragon stuff, which means it's
Yeah.
criminal, which means
Yeah.
we can sell it to help start the new government.
Right.
But
Effectively,
we also
one of the
need
things would be
vendors
to
if we're
take
starting a
over.
new government. So we got government contracts with the Gnome Depot, and we're really doing right by Gnome Depot.
Yeah, I would think that like the Gabi Lobby would fall under civil forfeiture too.
Yep.
You know, in that like, oh, you were supporting the, you know, terrible regime that, you know, basically murdered everybody. So you might leave with your lives. You're probably going to end up in the dungeon, and all of that stuff is just going to become the property of the new government, you know?
Yep.
And lovely little artifacts will be returned thanks to the Gnome Depot.
So I'll ask the
Exactly.
party a group question about Solomon, and we'll poll the room here. What was Solomon's greatest disguise?
I mean, Solomon by himself was an awesome one, but cousin Roman was like top tier, you know, infiltration and like subterfuge. But I mean, like the Solomon disguise by itself is probably the best in that we know it's a disguise and we don't care that it's a disguise. Like we're like, yeah, that's Solomon. It's like, yeah, but isn't he like no one cared to ask the
Yeah.
question of like, what is his real deal? We're always like, nope, we're all cool. You're Solomon. We know, like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like
That was the identity we all knew
Yep.
that we all identified. So that was the most like recognizable.
it was,
Identity.
yeah. It's like we don't even know your real name.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he like reveal sort of maybe not his name, but kind of his face or identity? And we
Yeah.
were just all like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we
And
were all like,
We
awesome.
were all just like, all right, what's
I
next?
told Zinthral my real name.
And that's why you killed him.
Yeah.
That's why I killed him.
I think
But
my
no,
initial
that's kind of-
response was, "Yeah, that tracks." Like we just moved on.
Yeah.
That is one of my last tidbits of Solomon's story. As years on down the line, when democracy is finally flourishing and the commissioner has the underworld completely under his thumb, a humble little wood gnome like lobbyist shows up at the Capitol from time to time. A humanoid rights lobbyist who hangs out outside the Senate, and whenever he gets to interface with some key political figures, he just may suggest that they do the right and good thing today.
Nice.
I like that.
So the story of Solomon's scribbles would be incomplete without mentioning a policeman lion by the name of Snugglecup, Face Ripper. What happens to Snuggy here? Is he returned to the wild? Does he remain with a member of the party, or something else?
Oh, he can't be.
He's too soft.
He can't be
to-
returned.
I
He's
was saying, yeah,
too soft. I fed him too many
yeah.
cookies.
And he aged too quickly. He's very well trained, but he doesn't really have the skills to survive in the wild, not with other wild lions. Like,
And
he'll
he's
get
got a taste
killed
for human blood.
by competition. I think Face Ripper is a vital component of the legend of the commissioner in his underworld conquest, because nobody messes with a guy with a terrifying ass lion.
Yeah, and it's like it's got to be some like muddled backstory about it, where it's like, you know, clearly like the events of like the Capitol are gonna go down, but then like it's gonna be like in a like weird hush tones of like he has a lion and it might be the lion that was at the Capitol with that group, but like we don't like. Did he buy him? Like how did he get a hold of it? Did he kill the guy that had the lion? Like it's
It
gonna
doesn't
be
matter,
like
man.
so
I've
confusing.
seen that lion rip some guy's face off. You don't
Yep.
want to mess with Face Ripper, man.
Like all these conflicting stories. Like I heard he won it in a poker game, or like I heard that he killed the original owner and fed it to the lion, and that's why he follows him. Stuff like that.
I heard he made a deal with a devil, and it's his demonic cat lord.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just as many like weird like origin stories for Snuggle Cup as there are like disguises that you have. Like it's just like it's ephemeral. Every time there's a different story about it.
So those stories circulate throughout the kingdom as legend, right? The question is, does the party keep in touch?
I do.
Yeah, I would think so. Bronson's like, I would think that most of us probably are, as we're scattered, our business does take us to the capital, and probably that's where we end up catching up, maybe one or two at a time. And like, there's with the risky, and like, if we're gonna have a group get together, I would venture to guess it happens in room 6 at the Risky Rabbit.
Yeah.
Bronson, I have a really interesting full circle idea if you want to hear it out.
Yeah.
So the first time I actually played D&D was with my next door neighbor. He was an older fellow and he had all the books and stuff. And I played by myself. I had 2 characters. One of them was a human knight. The other was a half-orc illusionist. What if Gator teaches Norris illusion magic?
Yeah.
And we can tie that to my first ever character.
Yeah, so real talk,
Norris
that was the plan
Arcane
with
Trickster
Norris.
Rogue.
Is he's going to end up becoming like, he may have like innate magic. He may end up being a sorcerer. So yeah, that definitely tracks.
He's like, I don't want to be like you, Dad.
Yeah, well,
you
like
took this kid into the field as a 7-year-old and told him like hang back and hide, put a short bow in his hand.
Yeah.
Then Gator's teaching him illusion magic. He's an arcane trickster rogue.
Yeah.
He unloads.
He's basically Atreus from God of War. He might turn into a bear. Maybe he's a druid. Who knows? Maybe they'll be allowed next time.
So as we bring the campaign to a close here, I want to go around the table one last time and give each one of you a chance to say goodbye to the party, reflect on what you're most proud of, talk about what you'll miss the most. And Solomon, I want to go in reverse order here and start with you. Give you a chance to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
The end.
I don't know what else to extra out of that. This was a good time. It was fun. I enjoyed the world mark we got to make on it. I never got to cast Dominant Person in the game, but I feel like it came in very handy with the rest of Solomon's life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Some spells it's just good to have in your back pocket.
Hell yeah. And especially to my fellow players, it was an absolute pleasure role-playing with all of you. You were wonderful.
Gator Gary Golden.
Yes, you got it.
Any last words?
Probably. I'm dying. Wait, no, I'm not. That's just last words. Get it? I had a lot of fun. I remember the Twitter post that led to this, and I very excitedly hit up some of my friends about it before Saucey even got back to me. And I know one of my friends in particular wrote a glowing response to it that you maybe you remember it, Saucey. but I do know, like, so shout outs to the homie Kevin for that.
What did he write?
Basically, because it was one of the people that got me into Twitch and like on Discord, and I wouldn't be basically like hanging out here doing all this if it wasn't for him. And he just basically we had played D&D together. He knew how passionate I was about it, and I was like, yo, I can imagine this would be a great campaign, and just everybody was like, that's the campaign for you, my man. And it has been a great experience, and it was fun hanging out with old friends and new friends.
Right on. Very well said. Rosa Blackthorn, little legs and a big heart. How would you like to say goodbye to the party?
Y'all are gonna make me cry probably, but I loved being part of this campaign, and I really loved playing with all of you guys. Everybody was, awesome, patient. It was great to bounce ideas off. We all had our kind of heroes moments and stuff like that. It never felt like it was centered around just one person, which is great. I loved it. Participating in the story and just having fun. It really was the highlight of my week, and I really am gonna miss this campaign and spending my Thursday evenings hanging with you guys. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there.
That was perfect. And the Lion Lord Bronson Celtigar.
I hated every minute of this. No, I'm just kidding. I covered a lot of this in the like the post game interview, but just getting through a campaign with 4 players in the DM without having any major scheduling conflicts or anything like all of that just is a huge testament to how into it everybody was. It was just a ton of fun to play every week, and to feel like we were all on the same page in terms of the level of commitment and just the desire to be a part of the story. And like it's seriously it's the only campaign I've ever made to the end of. Like I've always had groups fizzle out, or just kind of someone gets disinterested, or just scheduling conflicts ruin something. So being able to see something through to the end was just really a lot of fun, and it was great along the way. Like it was I don't think I ever had a session where I was like like outside of failing to knock off Mick Foley from this platform, and that was just dice rolls, I mean, but the content was great. I loved being a part of the world. I felt like we made an impact, and we were all collaboratively telling a story rather than just like, well, I like to hit things, I think everybody was incredibly invested, and that's a testament to you as a DM, and it's a testament to the players around the table that everybody came to tell a story and play a game, and I love it, man. I would do it. I would play with any of you guys at any point in the future. Like, you guys always have a spot at my table, and I just I love it, man.
Well, that was very well said, and you all deserve a lot of credit, because I think the ones who stayed in the campaign, you got it. You understood what the vision was, and you brought this kingdom of Kafabia to life. So I certainly want to acknowledge your creativity, your teamwork, all the unforgettable moments. Even if we bent some of the rules and we went a little bit off the railroad at times, like, it all just worked. It was great. It was a lot of fun to live out this dream of mine, writing programs and working angles and cutting promos. So I'd like to cut one last promo as we say goodbye, if that's okay with the room.
Steiner math.
It's
Steiner math.
it's not
Oh
Steiner
my
math.
god.
Oh.
That was great. Oh my god.
So the story of our heroes has finally come to an end, or at least this chapter has come to an end, and the Darker Order has been vanquished, its leaders fallen, its grip broken. The people are rejoicing as a new government is being rebuilt. And for the first time in years, peace finally seems possible. But peace is a fragile thing. So some say the Darker Order is not truly gone. They haven't been erased from history. They still see them in their dreams. Travelers speak of strange shadows moving in the fog, and seers claim to hear distant voices echoing from places long thought deserted. There are still strange tales of masked figures watching from the trees. The wise call it superstition, the brave call it nonsense, the fearful call it proof. The Darker Order's probably nothing more than ghosts and lingering echoes of an evil long buried and defeated by you. Or perhaps they're just waiting and biding their time, watching and waiting and recovering. Darkness never truly dies, it just waits to rise again. There will be a day when the peace ends, and when that happens, when the Darker Order rises, when gangs seek to seize control, when lions and monsters and beasts return, who will be there to answer the curtain call again? Well, we're going to have to wait to find that answer. Young Lions, it's been a pleasure. And I think there's only one way that we can end this campaign. So, Gator, Bronson, Rosa, Solomon, for the final time, say goodbye, Young Lions.
Goodbye, young
Lions.
Farewell.
All right. Hey, congratulations. If you're still listening, that means you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for coming by and listening to this edition of King's Road Young Lions. If you like what you've heard, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a comment down below of what you'd like to see on the next episode. For more great content from This Is Awesome Promotions, check out the YouTube channel, check out the Twitch channel, check us out on Twitter at TIA Promotions. Thanks again for coming around, and we'll see you next time down on the King's Road.